Welcome to another episode of How to Adult with Travis Walker. Today's episode is all about being thankful and living a grateful life. This is perfect timing because tomorrow is Thanksgiving and we want to show the world, hey, we're thankful, we're living a grateful life, and this episode is going to be all about that. So as you're driving home to see your family, as you're getting ready to see your family for Thanksgiving, listen to this episode, share this episode with someone that you love because they need to hear it too. I brought on an incredible human, the most thankful and grateful person I know, Allee Cotton. She's an incredible person. Let's get into the show and learn how to adult together. Allee, good morning. How are you?
It's great, Travis. How are you?
I am splendid because I'm speaking to you right now. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very delighted to be here.
Delighted. What a good word. What a fantastic word. Well, I'm really excited because this episode is going to be my Thanksgiving episode. We're going to talk all about being thankful. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about this subject. But first, we've got to know who the heck you are because that's important. So I need to know, how old are you? What part of the world do you live in? And what do you do for work?
All right. Well, for starters, hi, I'm Allee Cotton. I'm 24. I currently live in Kyle, Texas, but I've lived all around the Austin area for most of my life. And I'm a teacher. I'm a second grade teacher in Buda currently.
Why do you think I brought you, Allee Cotton, on the show that's all about being thankful?
Let's see. Well, I think that you probably asked me to go on your show for being thankful because you know that I am a big ball of sunshine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is accurate.
Yeah. I try to spend most of my time being positive. I have figured out in my 24 years of being that it's one of the better ways to be.
I completely agree. You have a whole lot more fun that way, right?
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to live a great life. And so how we do that is we're just balls of sunshine, like you said. And so I think that that's spot on. And so I want to know, what are the top things that you're thankful for?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. My top things that I'm thankful for, got to start out with, again, the sun. She's great. Love her. See her every single day. Say thank you to her every moment. Another thing I'm thankful for is my family and my friends. I like to try and express as much gratitude and thankfulness for them and the ways that they help me and love me and support me at any time that's possible, because I've realized when you share that love with the people around you, then it just magnifies and amplifies and goes out in all directions, and then they get to share it with you back. And then also my cats. I got two beautiful little beings that I get to love on all the time, and they love me right back, and I'm very, very thankful for them.
Absolutely. What are your cats' names? Because I love their names.
One is named Weasley and the other is named Granger.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. So why or what does living a grateful or thankful life look like to you? What in practice, what does that look like?
Let's see. So I like to start every day with gratitude. So even if I wake up and, being a teacher, we got those early mornings and it's a lot of like repetition and a lot of hard work that goes into every day, and you never know what to expect every single day. So I like to wake up with a grateful heart and just remind myself, like, woo, God bless another day of living. Starting out my day that way keeps me on track and keeps me focused on what I can control. And I've realized in like the recent past that practicing gratitude is 100% like a choice that you get to make in every moment. So even when I'm like washing my face and brushing my teeth, I like to rewire my focuses if I wake up in not the best mood and just be like, okay, I have all my teeth. That's awesome. That's something to be grateful for. I get to wash my face with this running water this morning. That's amazing. Thank you, God. Like all of those good things. I like to, let's see. I like to also thank my body for all the things that my body carries me to and through. So I like to practice stretching and yoga and dancing too, just like practicing being free and spending my time outside in nature and being gracious for all the things that the earth gives us. And then
Yeah.
at work too, being grateful for all the different things that all the different people I get to interact with bring to the table and just appreciating them for exactly all the ways that they are.
I love that. I love that. And so you actually answered two of my questions in one, right? I said, what does living a grateful life look like? What does living a grateful life look like to you? And also, how do you live these things out? So you answered both questions, right? And so that's really cool. You mentioned two things that I kind of want to dive into a little bit. You
Yeah.
mentioned two C words. All right, two C words, and they're not bad C words, to be clear. All right, so we've got control.
Uh-huh.
We've got control, and then we've got choice. All
Yeah.
right. And I love that you mentioned these two words. I think they're really super duper important because when people are being ungrateful, they're not being thankful. They're not living that thankful life. I think that they're focusing on the things that they either can or cannot control, depending on the situation. And so I'm interested, how does control factor into this conversation about being thankful or grateful?
Yeah. As everyone knows, especially with the past, 2 years that we've been handed, there are plenty of things that are always going to be out of your control. And if you allow yourself to have only your sights set on those things, you lose sight of all of the wonderful things that are currently taking place around you that you could have a positive effect over, or you could change for yourself. Um, a lot of times when we focus on the things that we can't control, we feel really hopeless and we feel really defeated and we feel like, oh, woe is me, nothing is going my way, I can't do anything about this. But really, when you change your mindset, everything else around you also changes. And when you focus your mindset on the things that you do have the capability to control, it switches you from this feeling of hopelessness to this feeling of empowerment. And then you start to see the results taking place in your life when you focus on what you do have control over, which is really ultimately only yourself.
Yeah. Wow. I love that answer. And I love also you mentioned the word mindset. I think that that's a huge portion of this conversation of you got to get yourself in the right mindset before you can even try to be thankful towards something. Because if you're not in the right mindset, it's not going to be authentic. Do you agree
Yeah.
with that?
100% agreed. And I also like back to that choice word too. I
Yeah.
know that a lot of times, like when you're in a negative mindset, it can be really hard to try and make the choice to like be positive and think in a more positive mindset. And a lot of times when you're in like the slummy feelings, the yuck, it feels like it's almost inaccessible to make that choice. But that's one of the easiest times I've found to try and push yourself to practice gratitude, because like there's like studies on it where like you can see people's brains lighting up if they focus their attention away from the negative and focus back into just like a little something tiny that you have to be grateful for. It just automatically like boosts your frequency and helps your mind get out of that negative mindset so that you can drive yourself to be a little bit more like aware of the choice that's always available to you.
I completely agree. I think there's too many people out there that think mindset is not a choice. Mindset is definitely a choice. You can elevate your mind. How do people elevate their mind, right? They read books. They listen to podcasts like How to Adult with Travis Walker. They
My
they
favorite
they
one.
exactly. And so they feed their brain all of these things, and that impacts their mindset, right? And that's a choice to elevate your mindset. And so I think too many people think that mindset is not a choice, and it definitely is. You get to choose the things that you consume, and that feeds your brain, that feeds your soul. And so I completely agree with you. I think that is absolutely a choice to be thankful. But with that being said, there are barriers, and I want to talk about those barriers and call them out. And so, what do you think are the top barriers for people not living a grateful or thankful life?
I think one of the top barriers of not practicing gratitude or practicing a thankful life is like thinking that you are lacking, having like a lack mindset, thinking that you are um, something that you want is not available to you. So you're longing for something, or your sights are only set on that one thing that I'm missing out on. When your sights are set on that kind of thing, all of the things around you magnify and reflect that one feeling of like you're lacking something. I also think that our society has like this disease where like we all just want to be complaining about something all the time.
Right.
And when there is so much to look at that you can complain about, it's really easy to have that be the only means that you can connect with others, is based on like, oh, COVID, blah blah blah, and everybody has all their opinions on all the things, on all the awful things that happen in the world. And when you choose to focus on the negative and then amplify that with the people around you, it just causes a negative train. Whereas you you can be the roadblock to the negative and switch the train around to become a positive train.
Right.
Yeah,
I like
I'm trying
that.
to trying to
I
think
like that.
other things too, is like lack of time. I feel like people think that there's
Ooh,
just like not enough time to like do the things that make them happy or positive or grateful, but that's another choice, is like choosing to allow yourself the time to do the things that you know bring you joy.
I love that. I love that. I think that that's spot on. And just like bringing that and then also bringing our conversation of choice back into this topic as well. You've got to make the choice to put yourself in a position where you have less barriers to being thankful, right? You
Exactly.
know, Amber and I have a lot going on right now. Like we're preparing to bring two little humans into this world, but that is, and that's stressful. It's exciting, but it's also stressful. But that doesn't mean that I
Mhm.
get an excuse to not live a thankful life, right? And so I've got to make choices where I'm living a thankful life. I purposely take a route to work that where I pass my church. And you can do anything. If you're not like a spiritual person, you can do this with anything. It doesn't have to be a church. But when I pass my church, it reminds me that I need to recenter myself and I need to check myself before I even walk into work.
Mhm.
And that gives me an opportunity to be thankful. And you can do this in any way. You can pass like a beautiful field that you really like to pass. You can do this with anything. And so finding that way early in the morning to just recenter yourself, I think is really important. And something that you mentioned earlier, which is you start your routine of being thankful right when you wake up. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I like to bring it into my classroom too, because I know that me being the teacher, I get to not control the energy of the room, because that's another thing. I'm not in control, but I get
Oh
to try
yeah.
my best to help the other beings that I surround myself with. I get to share a little bit of my light that I get to wake up with. So when I get to work, I like to like have like a classroom meeting where we all get to talk about how we're feeling. That's another thing, is being honest with yourself, and
Ooh.
recognizing how you're feeling is really powerful, because when you try and like shove your thoughts and your feelings away from yourself, then all it does is perpetuate it more, because you're like disowning that part of yourself, and nobody wants to disown the parts of themselves that deserve love. So we all come together and we have a little morning meeting, and we do one quick little sun salutation. So we say hello to the sun together, we say hello to the earth together, and we put our hands at our hearts and we say namaste together, recognizing the light within each other. And sometimes too, when I lead them in their sun salutations, we'll tuck into a little ball and we'll tell each other, I love you, self. We're gonna have such a good day today. We're gonna learn so many awesome things. And I get to see how like just me trying to model and exemplify that for a group of like 7 and 8 year olds really does have like a positive effect on them as well. So it's fun to see like what works and what doesn't, and get to like try and put it out there for others as well.
I love that positive energy. I love that. And so and my next question actually is going to address those people that just aren't naturally positive like you and I. And so let's get into it. Research shows that being an ungrateful person is actually a natural thing based on your upbringing and your brain structure. And so if you're not naturally grateful or thankful, what do you think about that? Research that I put in shows that it's natural to be actually an ungrateful person. What are your thoughts there?
I think that's like another thing where you just have to practice acceptance for yourself. A lot of those people that may seem like they're like ungrateful or just have like a negative attitude, I think a lot of the times it's easy for others to look at them and be like, oh, that person's just got a stank attitude, like what's going on with them, like why are they having a bad day? But I think that those people are just people that not need more, like more love and more grace, but at the same time, yes, they kind of do, because they they are in a place within themselves that would not be a pleasant place for me to be in. So if I can give them love and acceptance for exactly where they are, then that's me showing them and modeling to them like how it feels to make that choice to be more gracious and grateful within yourself, because nobody likes being judged. And I'm sure that like the people who are maybe in a more negative headspace or less grateful are in that scarcity mindset. They're in that like lacking mentality. They're longing for something else. And really all they're longing for is to come back into themselves and recognize the joy that's available at all times. So when you can show that to someone without making them feel like they're a burden for not being positive, then it welcomes them into the space to then take the actions that we choose to take every day, you know?
Right, right. And I think that I've said this on podcasts before. We are products of our environment, right? When a plant isn't growing correctly, you don't just throw it in the trash can. You change the soil first and see if that works.
Mm-hmm.
You give it more water, you give it more sunlight, you change the plant's environment. And so if you're not a naturally bubbly sunshine and rainbows person like Allie and I, then I think that you need to consider changing your environment. Are you hanging around people that have the same exact outlook on the world? And is that hindering you in some type of way? You don't have to drop those people like a hot potato, but you may want to bring some positive people into your life to make sure that you're getting that positive energy that you need. Do you think that that's a reasonable point?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say too that like a lot of times people have this mindset that like people who are positive are like kind of fake and they're like
Ooh,
not looking at the bad parts of life. But I think those people who maybe their positivity doesn't look like sunshine and sparkles and rainbows, like you just need to take a minute and recognize for yourself what your positivity really does look like, because it's available ultimately to everyone, and no matter what shape or form it looks like if you can feel positive and you look like you're really gloomy on the outside and people think you're negative, that's okay. Like if
yeah.
you're still feeling good on your insides and you are not bringing other people down, that's a win. You don't have to be a person that's like doo rainbows and sunshine sparkles and spread that around like confetti. You can be a person that models and exemplifies to others what positivity looks like even when you're having a bad day, you know?
Yeah, I really I love that. I think that that's really important. Absolutely. And I think the environment thing, and then what you're talking about as well, it all goes back to choices, right? At
Mm-hmm.
one point last year, I made the choice that I'm going to stop watching the news, which people can have opinions about me being uninformed or whatever. But I saw that me watching the news destroyed my attitude every single day. It just destroyed my attitude to see what was on in the world. And so when I stopped watching the news, when I stopped seeking that information out, my life improved so much. And I'm so much of a happy person, and I think that that has a really big impact. And so there's reflection in that. You've got to be able to see this thing is destroying me mentally,
Yeah.
right? And then you have to take action on that, right? Reflection without action is just like mindless thoughts. and
Yep.
and so I think that that's really important as well. Have you had an experience like that where you've seen something, you've had to make a choice, and then you had to take action on that choice?
Yeah, definitely. I think honestly, it's like a mindset that I have to be aware of every single day, specifically with my job, because as a fellow educator, you know how the system goes, and you know how the system in place is not really the best system. They're not focused on the children, and that's something that I can get upset about in my head and upset about in my heart
Right.
at any given moment. But that's again like the aspect of control. I cannot control the system that's in place. The only thing I can do is work my magic and work my light to allow these children that I get to interact with and have the privilege to be in their lives for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week,
Right.
and enact as much positive change and like help them grow as much as possible within the current confinements or constraints that I am perceiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just to go down a rabbit hole for a moment. I think teachers are very, very happy when they're in their classroom. Teachers' frustration doesn't come from the classroom. It comes from everywhere else but their classroom.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And so anyway, just jumping down that rabbit hole. That's my thoughts on that. Let's see. How should people show others that they are thankful this year? How we've gone through the ringer. We're still going through the ringer in a lot of ways in the world. But how should people show others that they're thankful this year?
I honestly feel like expressing your gratitude through your words, like communicating to others and being like cheese factor with it, like letting yourself just like let other people have it. Like if I know the other day I was just driving to work and I thought of Amber and I texted her this mushy gushy text and I was like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy to know you. And I just needed to tell you how grateful I am for you. Like, I know that when you share parts of your heart like that with people, it can really like change someone's entire day and change their outlook for the entire rest of their week. Like positivity really does have a chain reaction. So I think expressing your heart to your fullest ability and just being authentic, even if it feels silly or if it feels not so natural to you at first, like it really does make a difference. And once you do speak it out of your heart and you recognize it and you hear yourself say those words, it just solidifies it even more in your body and in somebody else's body and in your own reality. And I also think that like physically expressing gratitude, like hugging on your people, just being
Yeah.
affectionate, sharing love in that way. I know that like throughout COVID, we were told to be like distance and whatnot, but like having your family members around and knowing that you're safe and feeling that in your body and like just snuggling with your loved ones is like people need that heart to heart contact. And that's another really awesome way to just show your love to someone if you're maybe not comfortable with using your words. Just like holding somebody's hand is like a really amazing way to just say like, hey, I love you without needing to say the words.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it all goes back to like just recharging your battery, right? I remember in college at one point, it was like a really busy semester and I didn't go home for like an extended period of time. It was like 3 months or something. And I found myself like really stressed out and really like just in a bad headspace. And then I went home for some reason and that just like filled my bucket and recharged my battery to go back to Texas State and finish out the semester.
Mm-hmm.
And when I noticed that, I was like, wow, just going home and seeing my family and hanging out with my family just recharges my battery. It just makes my whole life a whole lot better. And so I think that's really interesting and something that you're kind of talking about. And I also in your response noticed that you mentioned a lot of actions, right? You can't just have people mind read
Yeah.
that, hey, I love you. No, 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 no. You gotta either show that or say that,
Yeah.
or the message is not sent, right? I can type a
Yeah.
message all day of the week, but until I press send, until I take that action, it's not sent, right?
Yes.
And so I love that. And because you had this thought, right? I really miss Amber. I really love Amber. I want Amber to know how much I love her. And then you took action. You sent a text saying, hey, I love you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really good with you having the thought and then taking action upon that thought. I think that's really good. Anything else on that note?
Um, I was gonna say also, with like finding ways to be grateful. I forgot to mention this. Journaling is like a really, really powerful
Mm,
tool. Um, I started a journal when I was 18, and like my main goal was to write something every day, just like one thing every single day. And it started out with like one positive thing that I could find every day, and I've kept that up and I've watched the like amount that it actually has really served me, like writing down my feelings. And it's a really awesome way to be honest with yourself too. If like you're like you got monkey mind and you can't really keep track of like what's going on in your head, journaling is a really good tool. And then another way to be grateful is like we said, like finding those things that really do make you happy and like making time for those things. like mine would be dancing and stretching and like being outside, and whatever you can find that like brings your heart that much peace and happiness is like the feelings that you need to chase. And once you recognize how it feels in your body, it'll be way easier to make those choices, because you'll be like, why did I spend so much time feeling yucky?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing that you mentioned is being authentic and also being vulnerable is kind of how I perceived your message. People are uncomfortable with being authentic and vulnerable. So how do we address that uncomfortability of being vulnerable, of being authentic with people that you care about? How do we address that?
Honestly, within myself and within my life, I have found that even if someone else isn't comfortable with my authenticity and my vulnerability, it's a superpower that I get to carry. Vulnerability is courageous, and authenticity is something that is kind of lacking in our current society. So I have found the more that I practice acceptance for myself and showing up for myself in any way that any way, shape, or form that I am taking place in that very moment, and just loving myself for exactly who I am and who I'm showing up as in that moment, I get to extend that gratitude over towards others, because again, I can only control myself. I can't control how I'm even being perceived by others. And I have found the more that I step into my own authenticity and my own acceptance for myself, the more people are like, oh, she's weird. That's crazy. I don't know about
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, that just shows me that those people are not yet practicing their own authenticity and acceptance for themselves. And the more that I get to accept myself, the more that they get to watch how that looks and maybe want to join in on my little bubble of happiness, rather than feeling separated and disconnected and judgmental towards the things that they may not understand. So I try to just make it 100% about myself, because that's what authenticity is being 100% yourself. And if you're doing that, absolutely nobody can take it away from you. They can misperceive it, they can judge you for it, but ultimately it only reflects on how they feel within themselves. And if you continue to shine your light, you're allowing them more and more and more opportunities to join in with you, rather than like condemning someone for not understanding what they don't yet know, you know?
Yeah. I love that you brought up perception. I think that's really important because I so like in my workplace, and I've said this for a really long time, but I always say, good work, or you're doing a great job, or something like that. And at one point, I can't remember if it was in college or at my current workplace, I said like good work, or you're doing a great job. And it was perceived as like patronizing. And I was like, no, no, no. I actually think you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And so I think perception and tone and attitude is a really important aspect to this conversation, right? People may not perceive it the way that you want them to perceive it, but that doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. That doesn't mean you're not doing it right. That just means that people perceived it wrong. And you need
Yeah.
to continue to put that light into the world, whatever that light looks like, right? I think that's really important. Anything else on perception? Because I think that's funny.
Um, yeah, it makes me think back to how like sometimes I think people who are really positive, others can view them as fake. That's something that I found is like the more I step into my own authenticity, the more labels people have for me. Like, oh, she's
Mm,
this way, she's this certain way. And people like to put you in boxes. And when you have an open mind and an open perception, you can allow people to exist without the boxes. And then in turn, you allow the boxes to be shed away from yourself, because ultimately we are big giant souls that came from stardust having a human experience in a tiny body. And the more you accept that everyone is going through the same things you are, the more light and love you get to share with those people, because you are accepting all of those parts of yourself as well.
wow. Wow. So when this episode posts, it will be Thanksgiving week. I'm hoping people are actually listening to this on the way to see their family and celebrate Thanksgiving. And so let's talk about Thanksgiving for a moment. How can people not screw up this holiday with being ungrateful? How can we not screw up this holiday?
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is watch talking about politics. If you know that your family is not going to have a similar ideal to you, more power to you. If you got some things to share, like I used to definitely be that person in my family where I was like, 2016, back when Trump times were going on, I was like, hammer it into my family, like all the truths that I had to share and all the things that I wanted them to be aware of. But ultimately it created more strife within my family. It made me not have a good time, and it made my family not have that good of a time. So watch what you can control. If you would like to have a positive time, don't create more negativity, especially if
Right.
you know that it's going to be an avenue that creates some strife within the people you're going to be interacting with. And again, with the aspect of control, like, you are only in control of yourself. So if you're like going into a situation where, like, you got, like, I don't know, this uncle, he just really rubs you the wrong way, and you need to take some space, like, go worry about yourself, take your space, don't make it that other person's fault, go sit out on the patio, on the deck, and get some sunshine and take some deep breaths and recognize that it's out of your control. And if you would like to stay positive, that it's only a choice that you get to make. And then
Wow.
you get to also practice that acceptance for those other people, and like reflect on, okay, how can I show this mean uncle that I don't like
Yeah.
some more love, so that maybe he can fix his attitude on his own.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And a question pops into my mind. I actually didn't prepare to ask this question, but can you live a thankful life? Can you be a thankful and grateful person while holding a grudge? Can those things coexist, or are those things that cannot coexist?
I think that grudges and positivity cannot coexist. But what I have learned very recently is that boundaries are necessary to keep positivity, because there are going to be some people in your life that 100% just want to drain your energy and want to
Ooh,
take away from your positivity, and will do anything they can to knock you down, because they don't understand your power. They don't understand how you're doing that, how you can feel that way all the time. So they want to just like push at you, poke your buttons, figure out what they can do to make you feel like them. And you can't hold a grudge against that person, because they don't know what they don't know, and they
right.
don't they you can feel sorry for them, because that must feel awful in their bodies. But you can also firmly and confidently and gently place a boundary that feels comfortable for you, that does not control in any way, shape, or form that other person, but just protects your energy from a person that is like that, because everybody knows there are people that are like that.
Wow. I love that answer. That
Thank
was
you.
fantastic. That was fantastic. So when you're out, and this question has kind of the same tone as what we're talking about here. So when you're out here trying to live a grateful life, and someone is out here trying to destroy you,
Yeah.
intentionally or unintentionally, how do you maintain that composure and continue to live that grateful and thankful life?
Honestly, I got to thank my man Jesus.
Yes.
He practices forgiveness. It's much more comfortable in your body to just hold forgiveness for others who have wronged you, rather than to hold it against someone. Because when you hold that energy, it's like, there's a quote, when you hold on to anger, like, the only person that's getting burned is yourself, because you're
Mm,
holding it, like, you're attempting to go throw it back at somebody, but like, you're holding on to the hot coal of anger, and the only person that ultimately gets burned is yourself. So can you say what you said one more time, because I went on a
yeah.
tangent.
No, I think that was a wonderful tangent, but we're just talking about when you are intentionally trying to live a grateful and thankful life, and someone is out here trying or not trying, intentionally or unintentionally, hurting your desire to live a thankful life. How do you maintain that composure, and how do you continue living that grateful life that you want to live?
Yeah, okay, yeah, back to forgiveness, forgiving that other person for, like, the disharmony or whatever harm that they caused you. And then choosing to take a step back and recognizing where your power comes from and the aspects that you cannot control. And if another person is so adamant on trying to steal your power and take away that light and dim your sparkle, then that's when those boundaries and barriers come into place. And if you need to remove someone from your life, um, don't make it about them, make it about yourself and respecting your peace, because ultimately nothing is more important than your own peace of mind.
Wow.
So choosing what you can do to allow that person the space to figure out what they need to figure out in their own time, on their own, because you no longer have to take part in it. If somebody is being nasty, detrimental to you, um, they are not a person that gets to enjoy your energy any longer.
Ooh. All right. Okay. I love that. You mentioned forgiveness earlier, and I think this is really interesting. And we also talked about grudges earlier. So I'm going to mix the two a little bit.
Mhm.
Can forgiveness be an action of showing thankfulness?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think that when you choose to forgive someone, like you just recognize all aspects of their humanity and recognize that somebody can treat you wrong, but that does not make them a bad person.
Mm,
Somebody can be doing all the most nasty, hateful things towards you. And if you say, okay, I forgive you and I love you and I respect you, it just shows that like you have acceptance for all of those parts of yourself, so you will not choose to interact with those people in those ways, and you'll distance yourself from people who might carry that pattern of like trying to place blame or carry just nasty energy towards you. Because if you can have if you can have gratitude for someone who has given you a the nastiest kind of energy that you could possibly think of,
yeah,
like that just shows that you are like all encompassing of anything that could come at you, and you can have gratitude for it. It just shows that like you're aware of how life goes, because life isn't always going to give you positive things, but if you can be thankful for whatever is shown to you, then you got it. Like
wow.
you figured out the answer. The key of life is like it's a choice to be happy. Things are going to continue happening, but if you can look at the good and filter out the bad and choose to love people as they are and love all things as they come, then you're doing it.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. Something that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to forgiveness is that when they believe or they feel like this person doesn't deserve forgiveness. So, how do you approach when someone doesn't deserve forgiveness, but you know you need to forgive them to move on and live a life that you can be proud of and happy with?
I like to practice reflecting myself in others. So if someone is showing me something that I perceive as unforgivable, I like to flip the mirror around and recognize, okay, what aspects of myself am I perceiving on this other person that I have disowned within myself? So, like if another person is showing me that, like, I don't really have an example, but if another person is showing me this action that I deem as unforgivable, okay, what pieces of myself have I cast away and felt shame and felt guilt about? Because ultimately, there is really, I believe, no action that another person can do that causes you to not be able to forgive, because forgiveness is something that is done for yourself, not the other.
Mm,
Um, so offering your forgiveness to that other person does not necessarily mean that you have to accept what they did, or integrate them back into your life. You can recognize that someone has done an action that makes them undeserving to be a part of your life any longer.
yeah.
But forgiveness is a choice for yourself. So you can choose not to carry that pattern of hurt and whatever happened within your body, because then it's just a story. And a story goes back to ultimately like probably a previous trauma that happened way in a previous part of your life that's being resurfaced for you to look at and reframe your mindset and learn a new lesson around.
Yeah. Wow. I love everything that you're saying. I think that it's really super duper important. And I think that we've learned a lot. So it's time to get into the closing questions of the show already somehow. So let's go ahead and get into it. What's that
All
final
right.
piece of advice, Allie? What is that final piece of advice for being thankful this time of year?
Final piece of advice. Wake up and think of at least one thing that you have to be grateful for in that moment. Um, Surround yourself with people you love, show them your heart and show them every bit of you, whether it shows up as sad or angry or negative. Just allow people to be around you and love on you, in whatever way that you are, and then practice gratitude for the people that are with you in those moments, by giving them your affection, whether it be physically or verbally, and then making time to make the choice to do things that really bring you joy.
Wow. I love that. I love that. I've also heard on another podcast, just saying thank you, like in your mind or
Yeah.
out loud, just say thank you. Like, thank you for
Yeah.
for allowing me to, get up and live another day. Thank you for getting me to work, unharmed. Thank you. It's just saying thank you in your mind or out loud is a really interesting practice, and it will build you toward being that thankful person that you want to be. And so I think that that's a really simple practice. I think what you said is a really simple practice that people can do just to be a more thankful person this time of year. So I think that's great advice.
I
So
would agree.
my next question for you is, what's something as a young adult that you're still trying to figure out?
Oh, man, those boundaries are
Mm,
hard for me. I am a person that I really, really, really want to like give just unconditional love to absolutely everyone. And you can wrong me so many times, and I will still be giving you unconditional love because I know you still deserve it. But at the same time, I have to recognize that when someone is not being so nice to me, that I get the opportunity to practice placing boundaries and remove myself, remove my energy, and find my inner peace, and allow that person to go about their business on their own time. So learning how to calmly and respectfully place boundaries that feel comfortable within myself, because I know a lot of times people who are positive tend to be kind of people pleasers as well.
right.
And when you put your attention on pleasing others, you lose your sense of self. And that's something that I have to practice and get better at.
Yeah, yeah. I think boundaries are super duper important, and people are pretty terrible at putting them in place, especially with people that they love, like
Yeah.
a close loved one or family member or even friends. How have you seen effective boundary placement be practiced?
Um, Honestly, this is kind of like personal, but I'm real proud of her. So I'm just going to say it. My very best friend in the entire world, Gabby, had a child with a person who was not in a space or a mindset to be capable to take care of that child. And
Yeah.
it was someone that she was in a relationship with. And I have watched her over the past 2 years, just transform her ability to take back her power of what she can control and be able to co-parent with this person who was not the easiest person to get along with,
Mm,
and keep herself at a safe distance and recognize the good pieces of their relationship that they do need to keep intact to be able to like positively raise this child that they both had together. So
right.
getting to see someone who I have grown up with my whole entire life transform into this like amazing mother and amazing person, and be able to just roll with the punches and take what she's got going on and make it something great and focus on what she can control. And even when they do have bad days, she's like, that's out of my control. So I'm just going to let it happen, let it roll, and put my sights back on what I do have good and positive, which is her beautiful baby.
Wow.
So
I love that. That's a great example. Shout out to Gabby. Is that right?
yeah,
Shout
go
out to
Gabby.
Gabby. Go Gabby for being amazing at boundary setting. Maybe we'll have Gabby on the show to talk about that.
Oh, that'd be
Let's
awesome.
see. Where can people find you? Can people find you anywhere? You're not really a social media person. Can
I'm
can
not
people
too
find
big.
you?
I do have an Instagram. You will hardly see me posting on it, but I will like your things. So if you want to be friends, you can follow me at aguacate cacahuate, which is avocado peanut in Spanish.
You may want to spell that.
AGUA agua CATE period CACAHUATE. Boom.
Boom.
Or Allee Cotton, ALLEECOTTON.
Boom. I love that. All right. There we go. Well, if you need a new friend, if you want someone to like all your pictures or or just see the positive energy that Allie is putting out into the world, go follow Allie. I'm not going to spell that because I have no idea how to spell it. But also go follow me at How to Adult TW on Instagram and Facebook. We're going to have more episodes coming out. until the end of the year. So make sure that you're following the podcast, listening to all the episodes. Share this episode. This may be an episode where I actually force people to listen to it. I haven't forced anyone to listen to an episode yet, but I'm going to force people to listen to this one because I think it's really important.
Oh, geez, no pressure.
Well, it's already done. So
true. No takesies backsies.
No takesies backsies now. Go follow my Instagram. Go follow Allie's Instagram. Have the best day ever. And we are going to learn how to adult together.
Amen.